Oh, why, hello there. Welcome to my channel. I love Sarah J. Maas, and I love Throne Glass. It's strange to know that a book or a series is controversial, but you don't know why yet. All I know is that I love this book, and I'm currently listening to the second one, and I plan on reading the entire series. But I recognize that maybe it will go downhill at some point, or I too will turn against it. I also think I might just be in love with this author because so far she has done me no wrong. I mean, she pulled some nonsense with a Court of Wing and Ruin with the character Moore, but that's like, we're just gonna put that over there. Virtually, I guess everything she writes is just so up my alley. So, what am I talking about? Throne of Glass. This is Sarah J. Maas's. This is her first YA series, and it's long. I believe it's recently completed at 7 books, but being that this was her first series, I thought the covers looked really bad. That was one of my biggest turnoffs, where I was just like not wanting to touch the series. I don't like that weird bluish looking elf lady always holding like a sword or bow and arrow like at the, I just don't think it looks good. But you know, that's not her fault. And I've always heard negative things about this series. I don't know any spoilers, and I just get the gist that you either really love it or you really don't. Maybe I'll get further into the series and be like, oh, I get why people don't like that. But as of right now, I love it. She just speaks my language. I think if new adult was an actual book category, that is where Sarah J. Maas would live. It feels YA in the sense that there's that like intense emotional immediacy, but it's written so much better, and the plots to just the writing style, it's just a lot more mature and doesn't grate on me. A lot of straight up YA books just feel young or too simplified or not thought through, or the craft is a little bit lacking. I never feel that way reading her stuff. There's a few things here or there where I'm like, that's a little much, it's a little excessive, but I think she's bold. You know, she just goes for it. I'm just gonna put spoilers out there right now. I don't have an outline, so I might just start spewing things that are spoilery, but this book has also been out for a while, so this is just my thoughts on the matter. But the whole, like, there being other dimensions and portals that magical creatures can come through, and the fact that she can kind of communicate with like ghost queens and dealing with these monsters, it's very creative. It's big, it's very high concept, and I think difficult to pull off, but I was right there. I was living for it. I was like, okay, let's go. We're doing these other dimensions, let's go for it. I kind of felt like she was holding back because she knew this was going to be a series, so it being contained to like one castle for this one competition, and that Sarah J. Maas is just like, oh, I just have to get through this book and then we can get really crazy. So it's kind of a shame that I felt that, but I still had a freaking blast. The whole King's Champion competition thing, that was, you know, I'm not gonna say that it's like my favorite plot in the entire world, but I thought it was fun. And I liked that there was this added element almost of like 12 Little Indians, where the champions just kept getting brutally murdered and disfigured, and so it was kind of this tense, who's gonna be next kind of a thing. And then Elena again dealing with these other dimensions and magical creatures, on top of just interpersonal romance drama, which I live for. I could see maybe getting annoyed with that if that's not your thing, but it is my thing. Also, God bless her for writing this in third person. I think I just hate first person books and don't understand why you limit yourself like that, because in a lot of ways this feels like a first person book because you get the emotional immediacy of Selena's thoughts like right then and there, but it's so much better because you can actually jump to someone else's brain for a little bit. We saw the perspective of Chaol, we saw the perspective of the prince and of the king and of what's her face that was high on opium all the time. Like, we got to actually see other people, and it made the pacing better and made the world feel a lot more full. So I appreciate that, and I'm very excited about that. I will also say I never quite believed Celaena to be an assassin. I believe that she was capable and she was smart and she definitely had training, I guess, but I kind of felt like the author wanted to have her cake and eat it too, where she wanted Celaena to be this brutal, badass assassin character, but also wanted her to be the moral compass in the series, and it's hard to do both. So all of the references to her being this like brutal assassin was all in the past, so you never get to see it, so you never get to experience it, and now reading book 2 only confirms that to me. I also was warned and read that some people thought Celaena was really annoying in this first book. I didn't get that. I liked her a lot. I think I liked her more in her first book than I did with Feyre in her first book. I like them both, but I liked that Celaena, you know, who's supposed to be this like crazy, cool, brutal assassin, who was also really into like fashion and girly dresses and boys, and I don't know, I just found that to be really charming. I was like, oh, you're cute, you're fun, you feel pretty well-rounded. There was a little bit of like Mary Sue-ness, definitely, where it's like, oh, she's really good at everything and everybody loves her and every guy is just falling in love with her and she's the most dangerous assassin in the world, and you know, it's like she's the best at everything, and that was a little like eye-rolly, but again, there's also something about it where it's just really fun to read, so I just was like, whatever, it's fine, I don't care. I'm not the biggest fan of love triangles because I tend to just immediately prefer one person over the other, and then I just get annoyed that the other person's even trying. But this one I didn't like because I like Chaol and Dorian. My heart always kind of leans more towards the Chaol type folks, a little bit quieter, a little bit more subdued, a little bit more jerky. I just have a thing for those type of boy characters over Dorian, who's a lot more extroverted and outwardly charming. But I liked them both, and when she ended things officially with Dorian at the end, I was a little bit like, oh, that's sad. I don't want you to end it, I just want you to keep flirting with both of them. I'm glad that it wasn't entirely resolved within this book though. I'm excited to see how it develops in the future with her whole romance thing. And I like how big the world feels, and even though everything virtually takes place within this one castle, which I'm not a fan of, it definitely feels like there is a active world outside of that, which I am a fan of, and I have a feeling with 7 books in this series that we're going to be able to explore a lot of that world, so that gets me pretty excited. Also, really like the final battle at the end between her and Cain, and then like kind of stepping into this other dimension and having all these demonic creatures come at her and being saved by Elena, who's this like ghost queen. It was cool. I love stories that actually build up to something for the climax, and that the climax is actually explosive, especially with fantasy. That's like what I want when I read fantasy, is explosive climaxes, and she did that, and so I was happy. That's like all I can say is that I like this book and it made me happy. I listened to the audiobook for this one and I'm listening to the second one. I will say with the audiobook though, whoever is reading them is kind of aggressive, especially when she does Dorian's voice. For some reason, she always makes him sound like pissed, like just so angry, and I have to like reimagine the line in my brain, like where I'm like, no, I think Dorian's trying to be like charming and funny, not angry. And just her general tone is a little bit like intense and aggressive. Don't think it is the same person, but she kind of sounds like Azula from Avatar: The Last Airbender, so if you can imagine Azula reading a book to you, that's what it feels like, so that's kind of wacky. It doesn't bother me so much that I can't listen to it by any means. I'm a Sarah J. Maas fan. Granted, I have 6 more books in this series to go, but I'm excited to get through them, and I'm excited to talk about them with you guys. Oh, and I also just want to give a shout out to this book has like I can't remember what they call the holiday instead of Christmas. It's where it's not Christmas, but it is Christmas. And that is so cool. That was like my favorite. That's when I think I was during my road trip, so I was just like smiling the entire time I was driving, because she was talking about like waking up on, it's like Yule time, Yule day, something like that. Happy Yule Day, I think. And she was just waking up and like with all this candy and basically going to church and like being like, everybody's nicer to each other and it's snowing and we have all these festivities, and it's just like, how freaking adorable to have like a fantasy Christmas scene. That is so cute. So another thing that I was kind of disappointed by though was, let me see if I can get her name right, Nehemia, I believe. I actually was really into the idea, because you have that red herring in the middle of the book where it's like, oh, is Nehemia a bad guy? And I was actually super into that idea. Not necessarily that she was like pure evil by any means, but that she had these like ulterior motives and she wasn't exactly somebody to be trusted. And then it turned out, nope, she's like a perfect human being, which is annoying. That is something about this book that I was a little bit like, either you're like a good guy, you're like Chaol or Dorian or Selena, and you're just such a good, morally righteous person, or you're like pure evil and you're like Chaol or the king. What's her face that like was smoking a bunch of opium, and you're just a bad person. And it's like, I wish there was a little bit more morally grayness going on here. Hopefully that will develop over the next 6 freaking books, you would imagine. But she also did that in A Court of Thorns and Roses. There's the good guys, and they were all good and perfect, and they were the bad guys, and they were the bad guys. Alright, so that was my book review of Throne of Glass. If you like this kind of video and want to see more Sarah J. Maas content in the future, make sure to give this video a thumbs up, and I will be sure to review more of her books as I read them. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on any videos in the future, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!